up, everyone, and welcome back to the Ethan and Jenna Show. I'm your host, Ethan, and alongside me is the lovely
Jenna Belk. Hi.
Hi, Jenna. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you, Ethan?
I am doing well. I've had a crazy, busy, but yet very productive week.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I have, because I've had so many streams, and I'm putting together this fundraiser, which I'll go into more later, for recovering from religion. There's over 35 guests at this point, different content creators. So the organization working with like the graphic design artists, the visual effects, marketers, the producers, like it's so much work, but I am quite excited. There was something I did want to talk about that happened this week, but now I can't remember.
Oh, man.
Jenna, how was your week? Or what did you do?
I don't remember. That's too long ago.
Oh, I remember what I wanted to talk about.
What?
But this is before we get into our subject of today, which is mental health and goals, setting them, how to make them, how to stick to them. And if you're interested in sharing your feedback, the number's at the bottom of the screen, 708-554-7836 or 708-5-LISTEN. So my ADHD has been bad. And to give you an example of just how annoying it is at times being inside my head, my brother and I finally found a instructor for Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu again, right by us. So we've been, working with her and getting back into sparring. And my brother is like kicking my ass. He's my little brother, but punching him is like punching a block of iron. Like I can't get through anything. Now, he did used to be a yoga instructor, so everything in him is just solid. Like I'll throw a full-on punch, and it's just his arm block. Nothing happens. It's like I'm like a guy hitting Thanos. That's what it feels like. Anyways, the point of this is that they'll give you combos, and the instructor had to repeat herself to me, and she's like, "Are you not paying attention? Getting frustrated?" I'm like, "I'm trying." I'm like, these combinations that are just so complicated and my brain's going everywhere, I can't remember them. So I'll have to sit there and do it like 5, 6, 7, 8 times till I get it. And I wish people would understand that people with ADHD, this sucks. Like this affects us. We're not intentionally trying to ignore you or not pay attention. Like it's a genuine struggle for me, particularly just even in that short thing, remembering hook, cross, hook, block, counter, kick, knee, like that's not easy to memorize for me. But anyways, that was my little tangent for today.
ADHD, man. For anybody that doesn't know much about it, I highly recommend going back and watching our mental health and ADHD episode. We're definitely going to be bringing it back up soon because there's somebody who needed help on my page earlier, and this is somebody who is autistic. And I am self-diagnosed autistic, which I know self-diagnoses are highly frowned upon in the mental health field. Now I'm finding out that this self-diagnosing autism right now, at least, is kind of a thing because we're still learning in the medical field a lot about autism. There's still so much that we don't know just at all. And I'm learning from other people, other women who have been diagnosed as adults, what struggles they have. And they are like, oh my God, like black and white, like exactly the same almost as some of my experiences. And after doing quite a bit of research into what we do know about it, I've learned that that's a thing. It takes a lot of time and a lot of money to get officially diagnosed.
Really?
Yes, right. There's a long waiting list.
A waiting list?
A waiting list. Like I said, this is a new concept. This isn't something that we've, especially diagnosing it in women and girls, because they thought that it was this thing exactly the same as boys, and we're just finding out that there's more to it. There's more. It's a spectrum. So anyway, so we'll have an episode on that, and I'll explain. I'll share what I've learned about that.
Yeah, I'm curious the process for getting diagnosed, because for me, like, it was easy for me to originally figure out that I had ADHD, but
Mhm.
I got my diagnosis, but it's still, there's so much that's not understood. Like, for instance, they just give you a piece of paper and have you answer certain questions, and off that piece of paper, it's like, okay, yeah, you have ADHD. But the problem with, like, for example, in my scenario, when I took the ADHD test, the specific 5 symptoms I had overlap with there's 2 bipolars. The number 2, the one that isn't as extreme,
Mhm.
I think.
It's so bipolar 2 is when your moods and can change like on a dime. Bipolar 1 is when they last like days, weeks, months.
Okay, so they overlap then with bipolar 2. However, there was a 6th symptom, and that 6th symptom was straight ADHD. So the doctor was essentially like, well, you have this, this here, so you probably have ADHD. Like, that's not conclusive.
You know, something that I've learned is that, and I mentioned this in the ADHD episode, is that there are at least 5 diagnoses that exhibit very similar symptoms. And so it could be like you have these 3 and not this one, but this is the one that has all of the traits, but it's not that. It could be these 3. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So this is why it takes so long. This is why it's so complicated to get diagnosed with autism, is because it takes symptoms from so many other things. So I was diagnosed with ADHD as well, and PTSD, and we're finding out that could be that and autism, or it could just be autism, or it could not, you know. So again, it's complicated. I highly recommend that whoever is listening to this do more research because we are not professionals, we are peers. But I just noticed, just to kind of add on details, there's a question in the chat. Do I have special savant skills? I don't know if I'm saying that right, but basically special skills, which is a huge autistic trait. People, OCD is a big autistic trait. And when you get OCD about certain things, sometimes you spend a lot of time doing them and you can get really good. Also, sometimes you just learn them quicker. I'm odd, or I guess I keep saying that I keep trying to remind myself I'm probably autistic. My therapist confirmed that it's a possibility. She's just not been trained in that specific field to diagnose. But I get very anyway, we'll have a whole episode on it.
Well, that actually made me think of a question. I
Yeah.
remember you and I, when we were doing our episode on mental health and humor with Kenneth Leonard, it was a couple weeks ago, and honestly, one of my favorite episodes. But you had said you couldn't really understand the difference, like with humor. I'm trying to remember specifically what you said, or you can't always tell why something's funny. Is
Mhm.
that a trait of Asperger's?
That is part of it. Yes. So what we're finding, just since we're on the topic, okay, there's something called masking that is huge in autistic women, where what we basically do is we study people and take notes and basically mimic what we think we can do to make us fit in, right? So I remember the day that I first started masking. I remember the day. It was the summer before 9th grade. I remember the mask that I built, and I kept that mask for a solid probably 10, 12 years. I put on this big, bubbly, happy, everything's always perfect, I am just fine face, because I wasn't. And I was under the impression, from what I learned this one day, that if I was myself, then I would never make friends. So I had to be who other people wanted me to be. So I had to be a happy person. People don't like going to sad people. People like going to happy people. So I was like, all right, well, I guess happiness is a choice. I'm just going to be happy. Right? What?
No, this is actually a lot of what you're saying right now is resonating. So I want you to continue.
Okay. So what was the question that you asked that caused me to talk about this?
Was it the humor?
Humor.
Yeah.
So that's part of it. Is I I fooled myself into thinking that I wasn't autistic, that I fit in, because I got to where I was working in certain bars and I was hanging out with certain people that I was like, no, I'm just normal. I'm fine. Right. And then I realized after I stopped drinking, sobering up is what, I mean, God, that changed everything for me, because I didn't have it as my crutch alcohol helped me become the person that I wanted to be, that happy, bubbly person. It made it so much easier to do without having to focus on it myself, right? Alcohol just did it for me. I became this entertaining, happy person. And after completely shaking up my life and quitting drinking as an alcoholic, I was forced to look inside and try to figure out what's going on. And I realized I really don't understand a lot of what people say. I learned how much I just kind of nod, like, oh yeah, I know. Yeah, no. So I just don't do that anymore. I try not to, at least. It's very hard to break that habit. But anyway, what do you have a question?
No, so regarding your mask statement, I really, really resonated with that, because when I was like picked on when I was younger, I developed my own mask in many ways, to try, and because I feel uncomfortable in 90% of the rooms I'm in. And what I mean by, I never really feel like I fit in. Like everything I do is different and weird, and I have to bite my tongue so much, and I hate biting my
Mm.
tongue. Even within like what I'm doing right now with YouTube, some could say this is partially a mask, in the sense where I force myself to not completely say everything on my mind. Because, for instance, I don't know what this is, but I got it from my grandmother. Anything She is a very, very outspoken and blunt person, and she says exactly what she's on her mind, which can be harmful at times. But in her defense, she's just being truthful. And I don't mean in a disrespectful way like Donald Trump, where they're like, he's just calling it like it is. No, he's just being an asshole. I just mean, in my mind, challenge or question almost anything. And to give you an example, with this new instructor I'm working with for Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, within the first day, I'm biting my tongue. Now, why am I biting my tongue? Well, she has several different belts. She's seriously trained. She knows exactly what she's doing, and she could whip my ass. I have no issue with her ability. However, I have an issue with her ability to train. But the problem is, if I say something, immediately I'm going to be the know-it-all. Like, what do you know? And this happens to me all the time. Like with my bosses, with my teachers, if I see something that's not working right, I want to point it out.
Me too.
Right. No, this is how it is. So, there are many, I guess you could say, societal standards that do suck, but they're also true. And the problem is, if I talk about those, people will get offended by them. So I am constantly in a position where I am watching everything I have to say, even specifically with the atheist and LGBTQ community, Black community, like every community. There's times I have questions and I have to bite my tongue, because if I ask those questions, they'll automatically think I'm being an asshole. It's like,
so that's huge, is being like too much for people, being too honest, too open, too loud, too pushy.
yes.
Just too much in general. Now, okay, we really need to get back to the show, but before we do, I want to leave with this. Oh shit, I just lost it. Oh, no, this is what it is. So what I've been learning about what, they're saying autistic women, diagnosing autism in adult women, rather than children. What I'm learning is that the traits that I'm hearing about that I can very strongly identify in myself, I can also identify in several men that I know. And I'm like, I'm not one. I don't want to diagnose others. That is the last thing that I want to do. I just think I very seriously recognize some of these symptoms in men. And I think that, so what they're saying is that there's a spectrum, like this is typical for boys, this is typical for girls, right? We're just now learning about what's typical for girls, whereas we've been pretty familiar with what's typical for boys. This whole just now learning what's typical for girls, I think, is just now learning another side of the spectrum for boys and girls. I think that we're going to find that there's more boys with these traits as well. And I again, not diagnosing anybody. I wouldn't be surprised if you have it as well. Even though it's not the same as what people typically think of right now when they think of autistic boys. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I would actually, and real quick, I would like to kind of give an example of a true statement that can be, some people take as offensive. And I don't mean it offensive, but it's true. So, and it's a shitty truth. Now, when I worked in the DJ industry, I would actively look for shot girls to help sell shots. Whether, and like I said, this sucks, but whether you like it or not, it's true that if somebody is really attractive, they're going to sell more shots than somebody that isn't as attractive. It's terrible. It shouldn't be like that. It should just be based on personality or the individual. But the truth is, it's not. This is how society is. And when I have said that, some people are like, well, that's a horrible statement. I'm like, but it's true. And I know, again, I know the reality of the situation sucks. I'll be the first one to say it shouldn't be like that. Also, I don't want to contribute to that anymore, which is why, like, when I looked for shot girls for my last one, I looked for anybody who wanted to sell shots, not just shot girls, because I didn't want to further contribute to that. But it is still a reality.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Anyways, so should we get to our topic now?
Goals!
So let's talk about goals. And for instance, the importance of distinguishing between a positive goal and a negative goal. So here, an example of a negative goal would be, all right, for 2021, I just don't want to worry so much. I worry all the time. Well, instead, turn that into a positive goal. For 2021, I want to feel more relaxed and more at peace with myself. Try and find the positive side of the goal versus the negative side of the goal. Because when you focus on a negative, your brain starts thinking, oh, I'm losing something. I'm giving something up. And therefore, it becomes more difficult for you to accomplish. Whereas if you focus on the positive, your brain is no longer thinking, whoa, I'm missing something. It's, nope, I'm gaining something here.
Yeah, I'm actually going to be learning throughout this episode. I am one of the worst people at setting and keeping. You know what? No. I have not smoked a cigarette for a year and 3 days.
Really?
That's a goal.
Yay! That is a huge goal.
Yeah. I just realized, okay, I'm being too hard on myself. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
We have both accomplished a lot. Oh, that's a really big one.
Oh,
sorry. This year has been, I have accomplished a lot of goals, and I would love to, so 2020, I started a YouTube channel. I built a community. And to be clear, when I was like at my worst several years ago, and just completely miserable. And I remember watching like Atheist Experience thinking, God, what I wouldn't give just to be able to talk to some of these people. Like,
I felt the same way.
I was like, dude, I would kill to talk to Jenna and V and Eric. Like, it would be so cool. And like, that was really a goal I had before I die. I'm like, before I die, I have to find a way to meet these people and let them know the effect they've had on my life. And now I've like interviewed all of them. And I was showing Jenna, like, dude, I took my life goal and I like surpass that shit, man. And it's awesome. And the channel's continuing to grow. And then, this past week, for those that don't know, I got to interview somebody I have looked up to for a very long time. Sean Schemmel, the voice of Goku from the Dragon Ball series. Dude, like, I have a tattoo with Dragon Ball Z on my chest because it was something so important to my brothers and I. And the fact that I interviewed him on my channel is like, dude, and I accomplished this in 1 year. I'm going to do so much more in 2021. Like, the goals I have and the things I want to accomplish this year are going to pale in comparison to what I've done so far. And I cannot wait.
I can't wait. But that's actually kind of why I didn't think that I was good at goals, is because I've said this before. I've already achieved everything that I ever thought that I couldn't, right? Like, as a kid, I thought, oh, well, I'm just going to be a mom. That's it. Like, that's all I ever could be. So that's, that makes me happy, makes me loved, all that. But now that I'm on the way there, that's creating more goals. But up until that point, I was like, I was perfectly satisfied. I had certain goals, like find somebody to be in a relationship that loves me like I feel I deserve to be loved, which I genuinely didn't think I could ever find. And then found that. And I've had him for years and he still loves me, which I didn't think could happen. And then the YouTube stuff and the not smoking, not drinking, eating healthier, losing weight, all these things. Like, I've already done these things. And so it's like, well, now what? So that's a good question. What do you do when you reach all of your goals?
Set more. Because, I mean, realistically, like I just said, this past year, I achieved several life goals I had. So now, to me, though, I need to shoot even higher. And I think it's always good, don't overwhelm yourself. Like, for instance, I had a friend who said on New Year's they were going to quit drinking, quit smoking, and quit smoking weed. And I was like, just no. I'm like, that's a horrible idea. I'm like, you start with one. Just removing all these things from your body when you're doing them on a regular basis is not healthy. It's strenuous and can wreak havoc on your body and your immune system. I said, pick one. After 3 months, if you've beaten that, or if you've successfully weaned off one, then go ahead, add another one, but just focus on one. It's important not to overwhelm yourself or to set a realistic goal. Like, for instance, right now, if I said within the year, I'm planning on talking to The Rock, that would not be a realistic goal. But if I say within 5 years, I plan on talking to The Rock, that would be a realistic goal.
I don't know how to tell what's realistic or not.
It is hard.
But that comment,
if you're disagreeing, Kenneth, you should call in with the number at the bottom of the screen.
Well, he also says set bigger goals, right? So, because I was saying, well, what do you do after you reach all your goals? Set bigger goals. And I realized that's something that I realized right as I started volunteering for the ACA, is that I wasn't setting very, very big goals for myself. I still don't. I don't set goals for myself that I don't know that I can do. I just realized, for fear of failure.
Okay, so I understand that, because I am afraid of failing, but I use that fear to push me forward. And I relate. It's funny you bring this up, because just yesterday I was talking about the fear I have right now, and I was happy with it. And what I mean is, for example, if anyone who has seen Dark Knight Rises, there is the scene where after Bruce Wayne's back has been broken, he's stuck in that pit of hell, and he keeps trying to climb out, and he's failing. And the guy says, how do you escape without possessing the most powerful impulse of the spirit, the fear of death? Now, I don't fear death, but I fear failure. And that fear that when I was a DJ, I was terrified of not being the best. I was like, I have to overcome all these other DJs, everyone in my way. And I did it. Like, I skyrocketed and started winning awards based on my ability to DJ, entertain, and stuff. But I lost that fear when I had those medical issues. Now within this community, I have that fear back, because it's not just, this is my last chance to prove I'm worth something and to prove that I can do something of value in this world. But there are a lot of people that are supporting me, that if I fuck up, it could fall on them. Like you, Jenna. If I make a huge mistake, well, guess what? It could become your problem because you do a show with me every week. So that fear, I have to consider that. Every time I have to do something, I have to think about Puck, Kenneth, Leonard, you, Hannah Vaughn, Brainbug, Dave Warnock, anyone who's regularly on my channel. I have to consider the fallout if I screw up. And I am glad I have that fear, because that fear is motivating. I don't want to let any of you down. I want to make you all happy. And I want to grow this and build this community bigger and better than ever, and make positive real world changes in any way I can. So fear from my aspect can be a good thing.
It can. And you're right. And I should. The thing is that I felt so much fear in my life that I guess that I've spent a lot of time now just doing everything I can to avoid fear. And I guess this is an important point to bring up, that some of us are really, really just so hard on ourselves that, for me, what I ended up having to do was just develop a lifestyle that what I'm doing is, at every moment, I'm just doing the best thing that I can do. And I'm just trying my hardest. And that's how I got where I am right now, which I am satisfied with. I am extremely satisfied with it. And I've been doing that. So if I had followed my goals and pushed so hard for my goals ever since I was a kid, I would not be a YouTuber. I would not be learning all this stuff. I'd still be a Catholic. I'd probably be a mother in that same small town that I grew up in. Am I happy that that goal fell through? Yeah. And so I guess that's what is keeping me right now from creating more, is for fear of setting the wrong goals and putting too much in that and wasting time.
Right. Well, Jenna, we should try and figure out a good, a positive, high, but realistic goal we can set. And I can be your buddy and kind of, hey, I won't know you every week, once a month or once every 2 months, hey, Jenna, how's that thing coming? What's the progress like?
Well, actually, currently, so I quit drinking 3.5 years ago. I quit smoking cigarettes a year ago. And now I'm trying, to quit something else.
I sure hope it's not this show.
No. No. Not YouTube, nothing like that. Just one more. I'm cutting back on things that are unhealthy for me. So I'm trying to quit something else, and it's harder. Well, I don't know. I guess what you said is right. Is you have to focus on one at a time. What's the what do you call it? The anagram that you found? SMART goals.
Well, it's funny. I literally just uploaded it. Here.
Nice.
Set SMART goals. SMART is an anagram for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound.
And so what do those mean? Specific means, instead of saying, I'm going to quit this, say, I'm going to quit this by this time. And here's what I'm going to do to replace it. Have as many details on it as you can.
And make sure it's not too vague. You want it to have like a very specific set of what you want to accomplish, not just like, by the end of the year, I'm going to be making $100,000. by the end of the year, I'm going to find a better job, which will get me on my journey to start making $100,000. That's at least what I would think.
Yeah. I mean, okay. So once again, we are not professionals.
No.
We are learning and sharing, and I guess we're asking for you to call in because we'd like to hear what y'all have to say.
Yeah, well, we do have a caller, but before we get to our caller, I would like to take a second to plug the fundraiser that I'm putting together. So February 4th is the year anniversary of my channel, and I'm using that as an opportunity to raise money for recovering from religion. And we have a huge guest list. And if you give me 1 second, I'm going to go ahead and play the video. Sorry, the graphics are going to change just for 1 moment. But I'd like to play that quick clip, and then we will get to our caller. 1 second. Look at that guest list.
That's so long. I love it.
I know. I'm so excited. And if you didn't catch, there are 2 new names at the end of that. We just got Eric Murphy and Drew Genetically Modified Skeptic. And I could not be more excited. So everyone, if you could, I'll put the YouTube link for the event in the comments right now. If you could click the video, click like, and set a reminder so you know when this excellent event goes live.
Yay! And I put a link in the chat for what V mentioned, the 100 days goal journal. They said that it's really good for goal tracking. And so I put a link in there just in case anybody wants to go get that.
Awesome. Should we move on to our first caller of today?
I am dying to hear what Kenneth has to say.
Me too. Kenneth, not a YouTuber.
Hi.
How are you?
No, I'm definitely a YouTuber. I'm good, man. I have a new YouTube video that went up like just late last night.
Nice.
How are you guys doing?
Great.
I was interviewing with Mandisa Thomas, who
nice.
is getting ready to celebrate the 10th anniversary of Black Non-Believers, which I think is an organization that more people should be paying more attention to.
Agreed.
Yes,
you got some good interviews this month.
I'm very fortunate. The next 2 are probably the biggest ever in the history of not just my channel, but interviews. The next is going to be with V La Bianca. And after that is internet superstar and fine artist, Jenna Belk.
Ooh, that is awesome. So Jenna, you heard her here first. Jenna and V are going to be on Kenneth Leonard's YouTube channel soon. And if you'd like to check Kenneth out, go to youtube.com/Kenny Leonard.
Yeah, I highly recommend it.
Dude, you are a dude. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Kenneth, you are a great positive force for the atheist community. And I really look forward to the day you become bigger and better, because you are a positive example to all of us, Kenneth.
Well, speaking of,
thank you. I'm trying.
Speaking of how impressive you are, goals. What is your experience with goals?
So it's interesting because I years ago became fairly obsessed with like learning about human performance and really like reading a lot of like biographies of people who I thought of as elite performers. And this sounds like such a cliche, but mindset is seems to be the most important single thing. Yeah.
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 So what would you say? Just believing that you can do it is enough?
Well, I mean, it depends. I mean, because everybody's abilities are different, right? And different people's goals are going to come in different shapes and sizes. So I don't think there's a wrong sized goal for a person to set. But so just as a two quick personal anecdotes. So when I joined the Army years ago, I was scared of heights, and
Really?
I decided that I was going to I was going to volunteer to go to airborne school and become a paratrooper and jump out of airplanes as a way of overcoming my fear of heights.
That is
Some
bold.
people listening to this are already going, "That's not how that works," but I didn't know that, so I'm still scared of heights.
Really?
So yeah, I've jumped out of airplanes. I mean, dozens of times. And yeah, I'm scared of heights. So it just became a matter of like relying on training and really leaning into this experience that I was still scared of every single time, and just finding a way through it. So that was really interesting in terms of goal setting. And then when I got out of the Army, I got really into powerlifting, and I set goals for myself in terms of like weights that I wanted to be able to lift in competition. And I thought of myself as being like really, really strong, because I would go into like pretty much any commercial gym and be one of the strongest people there. But then I started training with serious competitive powerlifters.
Right.
And I was coached by this guy named AJ Roberts. And to put it in perspective, I had this mental block where I was like, I want to be able to squat more than 500 pounds. And I thought, that is huge. That is like unattainable. Like, how am I going to make this happen? And then AJ started coaching me, and AJ's best squat ever in competition was more than 1,200 pounds. So it shifted everything in my mind of like what was possible. And when I read about, like last year, I became obsessed with ultra marathoners, and I started to learn about people and what they're capable of. And I started to find that my goals were very, very small. The goals that scared me were very, very small, that there are people out there doing things that changed my whole conception of what's even possible. And once those perceptions shifted, I found myself being able to do more and take on more.
So there's a difference between saying, "Oh, I know I can do it," and like, "Oh, that's actually possible."
Yeah. Like so I ran the Chicago Marathon in 2019, and I don't like running. I decided I was going to do it and try to like raise money for a charity. And when I would feel sorry for myself and be like, I just ran 10 miles and my legs hurt, which they did, and I was building toward a goal. But I would read about people like Courtney DeWalter, who she ran the Moab 240, which is a 240-mile foot race that's done up in the mountains in Utah. She ran for like 60 hours straight to win that race. And I was like, I can't even wrap my head around that. Like, what's possible?
I love running, and I can't wrap my head around that.
I hate running.
What's that?
I love running, and I can't wrap my head around
it. Well, yeah, so I'd be like, I don't know if I can do this. And then I would see other people and I'd be inspired by them. Like, I don't think I should be able to do what they do. That's crazy. But, and I'm not measuring myself against them, but it's just opening my mind to this idea that we are nowhere near understanding the limits of human performance when it comes to our minds or our bodies.
So would you say, there's a question, how does one become obsessed with doing healthy things? Would you say that it's surrounding yourself with people who do those healthy things or who are obsessed with them?
It's a really interesting question, because healthy is such a, I mean, it's a concept that isn't well defined, right?
Mhm.
So I don't know if running 240 miles is healthy.
Right.
That's like taking things to a level that's where you're destroying yourself.
All right.
You know? Oh, I know for a fact that with my friend AJ that he had to quit powerlifting because he would have died if he would have kept pushing his body as hard as he did. So, you know, to some people, healthy is being able to walk around the block without feeling tired. And for other people, as healthy as running marathons, you know? So I think that it's so subjective in terms of what someone's goals are. And in my experience, paying attention to how I feel in my body and thinking about, well, what do I want to be able to do? How do I want to feel? What's going to make me feel the best in my skin? Is the way where I start to think about health in ways that feel healthy to me. When I start comparing myself to others, when I start, you know, looking at other people as benchmarks, that's where things get unhealthy. When I, you know, if I watch Thor and I see Chris Hemsworth and his delicious crippling abs, and I'm like, why don't I have delicious crippling abs as I'm eating
delicious.
my potato chips on the couch? That's not a good place to be in.
Right.
But
you know, that's actually a very good point. So Kenneth and Jenna, I used to do amateur strongman. And I had a partner I would train with. My partner was in the heavyweight class. I was in the lightweight class. Now, if I tried to compare myself to him and try and keep up with him, that would have been unrealistic and not healthy. But instead, I looked at people in my weight class. Where were their maxes? What could they do? And I set my goals based on that. And it was awesome. In my first competition in my weight class, I became third strongest in Illinois. So I was really happy with that. But at the same time, I remember like when I first injured my back, I was like, oh, this sucks. And this back injury has plagued me to this day. But I got to the point where I was like, I had done everything I could have naturally. And my body, in my opinion, was peaked. So I wanted to go to the next level, which the next level would require steroids, which are illegal. Now, to be clear, I am all for the legalization of steroids. The only reason, in my opinion, they are illegal is the rampant spread of misinformation and not understanding. And of course, there are those people who abuse steroids. And steroids being a very broad term here, keep in mind there are so many different types. And I went as so far as to possibly, I may or may not have purchased them. But when it came down to it, I didn't want, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do this for the rest of my life. Why am I going to put this in my body? I'm good. And it was shortly after that I actually gave up on the strongman. But the reason I went into that little rambling session was to agree with you, Kenneth, on how had I set myself to completely unrealistic goals and compared myself to the likes of my partner or like Derek, was it Derek Poundstone? I can't remember his name.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Derek Poundstone's a strongman.
Yeah, he's just a beast, man. Like, had I set goals and compare myself to them, I would have been discouraged every day. But I set as what I thought were the most realistic goals possible based on the people around me in my weight class.
Well, and even not going even that extreme. So I ran cross country and track in high school, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And it was definitely one of my first addictions. And after a couple years of running and pushing myself way too hard, like the first or second year I was running, I was like sick like the entire year and ran anyway. And then the next year I was on varsity. So if I was sick, I ran anyway. And it got to the point where I went to the doctor because I had patellar tendonitis, which is when you're running and your tendon starts shredding between underneath your kneecap, and it hurts. Sorry, it hurts. So I was told by my doctor to stop running. And I was like, yeah, right. Like, I'm not stopping because we were going to state and I was a junior and there was me and another junior and everybody else was either a sophomore or freshman on our team. So I was like, we're going to go to state and we're going to win. So I ran anyway. And I hurt my tendonitis so bad that it's supposed to go away if you stop running. But I think I waited too long because my knees still kill me and I don't run anymore. I walk now. And I've actually cried from missing running so much. So that's kind of what Kenneth was saying, that going even around the blocks for some people is a huge achievement. For me, I pushed myself too hard just trying to do high school sports. Just trying to do that much.
Right.
Yeah.
I damaged myself.
It's easy to do.
Yeah.
Like my closest friends know, like I'm a complete idiot when it comes to this kind of stuff. I push myself too hard and take on too much, and like clockwork will hurt. Like when I ran the Chicago Marathon, I ran the marathon on I had a slight tear in my IT band on my right leg, and it just felt like it was the most excruciating pain I've ever been in my life. And my fiance was like, just don't do it. Like, what are you trying to prove? Like, you know, what are you, like, some kind of tough guy trying to go out there and show everyone, you know, whatever.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, I am. so I, you know, I'm a bad person to look to for advice sometimes on this kind of stuff. But the flip side to that is I love seeing people take on goals that are just big enough to make them a little bit afraid or a little bit uncomfortable, and then achieve them and surprise themselves. I know that both of you know what it feels like to surpass a goal that you didn't think was possible, and then to have a new conception of what's possible.
Oh yeah, YouTube's done that. I think for both of us, right, Ethan?
Yeah, dude. This whole year has been an example of the completely impossible happening to me. Like,
so then when I think it's important that we talk about when to quit. Right?
I'm not quitting anytime soon.
Because this whole old-fashioned mindset of never, ever, ever quit. Right? That's harmful.
Yeah, I agree. So that I actually have a rule for myself. I right now my attitude is don't quit until such a time comes that your content is no longer helping people. If I get to a point where my content is negative or harmful, that's when I will quit. Outside of that,
what if it's helping other people, but it's burning you out?
I guess, okay, so here's the other thing. This is why I am trying to keep other people involved in my channel and my community, because I don't want your friendly neighborhood atheist just to be seen as Ethan Micheal. I want it to be seen as a community of people. So, hey, I could go a month and not be on camera, but I still have a bunch of great rotating hosts that keep this going. That's how I intend to avoid any burnout, is by continuing to grow this, build it into a network and a community that is self-sustaining and not solely dependent on me.
So trying to be honest with yourself and acknowledge when you need to change your goal. Maybe. Right?
I was talking to another content creator, and I'm not going to name them, but they were talking about how they've been taking a lot of time to try to work on their mental health and stepping away from being as present and as engaged, and that they feel like it's damaged their reputation among other content creators, but they felt like they've had to do this for themselves. And I worry about all of us out here in YouTube land, because there is a pressure to be on camera all the time. And there's a pressure to be constantly available and to be useful to people. And hopefully we all come at this from a place of wanting to help and wanting to be useful, but you know, there's only so much of ourselves that we can give. So self-care is just so important. So that's one thing with respect to setting goals and knowing when it's time to maybe, you know, take your foot off of the gas. I think is if you are feeling that burnout yourself, if you're wearing yourself out, then ultimately you're going to run into diminishing returns and not be able to be as effective.
Yeah. And I will say the only area for me where I need to learn to be more careful is I currently have this mentality that anybody who messages me needs a reply, and they need a reply within 24 hours, if not a couple. Because when somebody messages me, this is same like my like there are times even in my work life, my boss is like, dude, slow down. Like, but to me, when an issue comes in, it's hanging over my head, and it will be hanging over my head until I resolve that issue. The same is with people message me, which can be a little stressful because I'm like, I have to reply to these people right away, because in my head, it's an unfinished task that needs to get completed. I don't want people to feel I'm not replying to them, but I'm learning that I won't be able to keep that up forever. So what I started to do this past week, I had some new person reaching out to me and just kind of like shooting the shit. And I'm like, hey, I have trouble keeping up with these conversations all the time. If you need help, I'm here. But otherwise, if you're looking for a community of like-minded people, here's my Discord. And I direct them to there, because if this keeps growing, I can't have like nonstop conversations with everybody. I'll be burnt out before I know it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not your job to save everyone. You know, you are not our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, Ethan. You know,
but
like
I'm the atheist
a
Jesus
point.
Christ.
Like, you are not exactly, and it's just. I mean, we've veered wildly off topic with regard to goals and stuff. Can I? So there's two. Because I need to get out of here so IQ can call in and say all the things that I missed. But there were two things that I found a lot of value in 2019 when I was setting goals for 2020. And some of those goals I hit, some I didn't, and it's fine. We're all learning and on our journey and all that stuff. I started to pay attention to a guy named David Goggins, and people are gonna. I mean, David is not for everybody, but he has a book that I found a lot of value in that's called "Can't Hurt Me," and he is a guy who overcame tremendous personal, difficulties to become an elite ultramarathon runner, and I find his particular brand of like tough love motivation to be very, very inspiring. Again, it's not for everybody, but he introduced me to a concept called the 40% rule, which is that when you are doing something, when you're pursuing a goal, when you're doing a workout or trying to read a book, whatever, when you reach the point where you're like, I'm exhausted, I'm done. The idea, and this is a popular concept in the Navy SEAL community that David comes from. The idea is that when you hit that exhaustion point and your mind tells you you're done, you are at 40% of your actual capacity. That your body is trying to preserve. There's like a survival instinct that kicks in. Your body's trying to preserve energy so you can go on and do other things. But that when you think you're done, you've only tapped into 40% of your potential. And that has been a very powerful idea for me. So for what it's worth,
I love that, and I think that is. So
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I thought you were done.
No, that's it. That's the whole thing. I'm rambling at this point.
I think that's awesome, and I love that. I think I've heard that before, and I think I've used that to my advantage in like working out and things. I would just ask that anybody that pushes beyond that, remember that you still have to get home. You still have to. Yeah. So just gauge how much over that 40% you want to go.
Yeah. The way that I first heard about this guy was that there's this entrepreneur, billionaire out in the world, a guy named Jesse Eitzler. And Jesse heard about David as an athlete and as a performance guy and invited David to come move in with him and his family to be his personal performance coach for like 6 months. And then he wrote a book about it called Living with a SEAL. And it's this constant thing where this like normal guy who is an elite performer in his own right, the guy's a very successful businessman and a husband and a father and all this stuff, that he would constantly be like, David, I'm done. I can't do anymore. And David would be like, I promise you're just at 40%. and then he would be like, he's like this guy's spirit guide to finding deeper and deeper depths of his own abilities. So yeah, I get all hyped up talking about this stuff because I just love seeing people break through barriers and find out they're so much stronger than they think that they are.
Well, one thing that we tend to forget is that stress is necessary for growth. And so those of us who are doing absolutely everything that we can to avoid all stress are going to stop growing. And so it's up to you to decide what kind of stress and how much and when, and determine how much and when you want to grow.
Right. And of course, we're all in different places. We all have different tolerances for stress. So, I mean, anybody who is like not taking that into consideration when trying to push you towards something, you know, it can get toxic real quick. But finding that balance is a fun project, I think. And you know, all of us trying to find out, you know, what we're capable of and how far we can go toward, you know, just being the best versions of ourselves.
Yeah, there was a comment that I wanted to share right now that was posted earlier, but it was something about competing with yourself. I think that's probably the healthiest kind of competition.
Yeah. I like that's so important. I mean, because competing against anybody else, like, who gives a shit? But finding out what you're capable of, that's the real, you know, that's the real fun.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, Kenneth, it sounds like you have to go, and we also have another caller. So I do thank you for calling in. It's always a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Oh, stop it. All right. See you guys.
Talk to you later.
Thanks.
And just a reminder, you can see more Kenneth Leonard at youtube.com/Kenny Leonard. You know, before we get to our next caller, I want to touch base on Oz's comment. This is true in many ways. So I get a million ideas a minute, and there are some where I'm like, I need to do this. But the problem is, if I don't do it like as quickly as possible, my interest fades and it never gets done. So it can be really difficult for me to just be like, all right, I'm going to take my time with this. I just like have to go with it because I lose interest. Now, on the flip side, there are only two things in my life where I had never lost interest in doing up until, I guess, at one point. Well, I guess, yeah. Okay. So technically the DJ stuff and karaoke stuff I used to do, I never actually lost interest. Eventually just the medical shit happened to me and it went, but this is the only other thing where I have had the Atheist channel, so much focus and dedication and a schedule and all the stuff I organize behind the scenes. Like I am like a frigging laser when it comes to my channel. Like I'm just like, nope, this is what I'm going to do. It's going to happen. It's not going to stop. Like I am so invested in this because to me, this is my future and I am fighting for it. You represent, yo.
Love
it. This next caller, I don't have their name. It looks like they want to talk about mental illness and goals. Hi, you're on with Jenna and Ethan. Who are we speaking to?
You're speaking with Ryan.
Hey, Ryan.
Hi, Ryan.
How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Doing well, thank you.
Good.
What did you want to talk about, Ryan?
All right, so I wanted to talk about my own mental illness and how that reflects on goals and just in general what I've been through and mental health in general. What it what it means to accomplish a goal. Like first, you have to define goal. Like, what's your definition of goal? It's an object, like you put effort in order to get an end result, right?
Right.
Like your ambition. Yeah. But with mental illness, my mental illness, which is schizoaffective disorder, which is a kind of a combination of schizophrenia and major depression disorder.
If you could,
a lot of times.
Hey, Ryan.
Well, most of the time. Yeah.
Sorry. Just if you could, in like 30 seconds or less for the audience, could you just briefly describe what the schizophrenic disorder is?
Yeah, schizophrenia is a disorder of the mind and brain that has numerous symptoms. They're classified as positive symptoms, which a person exhibits hallucinations and delusions. Negative symptoms, which are absence of motivation, interest, and enjoyment, and also cognitive impairment of the brain. There's actually a lot more to that. That's just the really general stuff, but it's a really complicated disorder of the brain and mind.
Okay, thank you. Now go ahead, please proceed with your story.
Oh yeah, so a lot of the symptoms sometimes of depression and schizophrenia, or bipolar disorder, or other disorders of the brain, causes you to lose motivation, interest in things. You lack enjoyment in activities. So a lot of times you stay stuck, and you really don't have any goals or interest in doing things anymore. And it becomes really difficult to live your life like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I personally went with therapy, which is cognitive behavior therapy,
Okay.
which is with the therapist. What you do is try to change your behaviors, and that over time, what you train, you do certain things like one step at a time, trying to change one behavior so it becomes a habit. And you try to build your willpower to try to change your habit to get end goal result. Like just brushing your teeth in the morning. Like there was a period of time where I didn't brush my teeth for like months, and she was like, just try to change one simple thing. When you use the bathroom in the morning, just look at your toothbrush and pause and reflect and try to use it. And now I'm regularly, I changed my behavior from a negative to a positive stance, in that sense.
Right.
So even small goals and with mental illness are really big things for people in general.
Totally. Yeah, just to relate to you real quick, I have trouble, or I have had trouble, huge amounts of trouble remembering to take daily medication. I just could not remember. So I was like, well, I can't get on any antidepressants. I can't get on any anti-anxiety meds because I can't remember to take them. And so my doctor gave me the idea to rubber band the prescription bottle or a prescription bottle around my toothbrush, because brushing of teeth is something that I do every day. I'm capable. Yeah. So that actually worked. And now I've got little pill boxes, and I've come up with little cute carriers because if I have something cute that I like to use, I'm more likely to use it. So yeah, just to share that, just to relate the smaller goals.
What's funny about that is that's actually how I quit my anxiety meds. I totally forgot about them. Like,
yeah.
I was so anxious, like for like 4 days in a row. And I'm like, why am I so anxious? I'm like, oh, I forgot my anxiety meds. I took it and then I forgot again. And next thing I know, I haven't had anxiety meds in weeks. And I'm like, oh, well, okay, cool. I'm managing.
I don't need them.
Yeah. Like, so with goals in general, like when you try to establish a goal, you want to create habits. And the way you create habits is through like willpower. And, really just a lot of times we're on automatic mode. Like our brain just automatic responses, like, just fight or flight response. But you can pause and try to reflect on and be mindful of what's going on in your present situation and try to plan ahead.
Mm-hmm.
That requires a little bit more energy, but in the long run, it's more beneficial to you overall for your health. And it just trying to plan ahead. It sounds, cliche, but it actually works. The pausing, reflecting, and being mindful of what's going on around you.
So mindfulness, that's something that I feel like in almost every conversation I have, we come back to that. Mindfulness. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Being in the present moment and reflecting on what's going on and what you have to do is
then.
something you certainly train. Like all these habits, willpower, behaviors requires work and training. And over time, you can change your behaviors and habits for positive ones. Like that's how people quit smoking. That's how people quit alcohol. And, you know, like it's just in general, that's how people try to get goals done.
I'm sorry, I got distracted by the chat.
Me too.
It's okay.
No, so,
Sorry.
wow, sorry. My brain just that. Blah. Here we
I
go.
saw squirrel, and I was like, "Wait, I have ADHD, guys."
Yeah, really, this show should have been called the ADHD show, not the Ethan and Jenna Show. Ryan, so we are getting really close to our time today, and we have one other caller. But is there anything else you'd like to leave the audience with, or any other thoughts you'd like to share with us before we let you go?
Yeah, there's one more thing. If you want to accomplish your goal and train your willpower and get better habits, be with people who support you and are have a lot of willpower as well. Like your environment is really, really a big factor in achieving your goals as well. If you're in an environment where people just don't care, or they show lack of energy and willpower, it will like negatively affect you.
Yeah. That's something that I've had to do. Recognizing when you're in a toxic environment, recognizing when you need to put up boundaries because they are hurting you, and being able to replace toxic people with healthy people that you want to. I try to hang out only and talk and hang out with people that I want to be more like. Since I have no choice but to engage with people that I don't like, I spend effort in finding and spending time with people that I want to be more like.
You know, I think there's also an important important thing to distinguish between a toxic person and toxic behavior. So, for instance, when my former partner and I were getting towards the end of our relationship and we were just miserable together, we ended up being unintentionally toxic towards each other, despite the fact that neither of us are like toxic or mean people. We just started like everything was a fight. Oh, why did you do that? Like, and we realized that. And once we moved out and split, it was like we went back to being loving and goofy. We were no longer bickering at each other, which in turn, sometimes people see as, oh, like they're cute, they should get back together. It's like, no, you didn't see us when we were together. We may be cute now, but when we're in the same house, we're not so cute. And that can happen to anybody. You could be the nicest, most positive person on the planet, but if you are around somebody that is not making you happy, your behavior can change, and it's important to recognize that. And when the relationship only has negatives, then time to go.
Doesn't mean that that's a bad person. It just might mean it's a toxic relationship.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what I mean. Like my ex-wife, not a bad person, great human being. She was one of the people that was there, one of two people that was there for me through the worst parts of my life. It was just, we were both because we were so miserable, taking it out on each other. But neither of us, in my opinion, is a toxic person.
Right.
Anyways, Ryan, thank you for calling in.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thanks. It was so good to hear your perspective.
It was. I'll talk to you later, Ryan.
Thanks.
All right, we have to power through this last caller. Hey, Tiffany, you are on with Ethan and Jenna. How's it going?
Hello. Good morning, Ethan and Jenna. I'm pretty good.
What do you got for us today?
Okay, so sometimes you get really into your goals and then suddenly something will change and you totally fall off the bandwagon. And sometimes you have to start over from nothing. And I don't know, that's really important to acknowledge. If you've done it before, you can do it again.
Yeah.
And I'm learning that.
One thing that I learned in rehab, trying to quit drinking, is one day at a time. And I have found that this has been helpful to me, not only in quitting drinking, but in any kind of goal that I'm setting, is remembering that when you start to fail, literally every day is new. You can literally just pick up from today and continue on as if yesterday didn't even happen.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So like 5 years ago, I was, oh God, okay, it's been like 6 years. I was over 230 pounds. Like I was a big girl. And then something switched in me, and the lowest I got was 140. So like I was super healthy, super fit. I was meditating every day. I wasn't drinking. I didn't smoke cigarettes. I didn't do any hard drugs or any of that stuff. And then everything changed. I broke up with my boyfriend at the time. I realized like I couldn't grow anymore with him. But then I backtracked and I started smoking cigarettes, and I was a vegetarian beforehand. So I started eating meat and like drinking alcohol in excess. And it really took me one day to go, wow, like who am I? Where'd I go? And you're just sort of looking around for yourself, and you realize you're not there. But you're totally worth it. All of you are. Anybody listening, like you're worth taking those steps for you.
Absolutely.
And how are you coping today?
Today is a really good day. I'm excited to be able to listen to you two and all of your callers. I feel very positive about taking steps today. And that can fluctuate as well, even while you're making the steps to go forward, I think. So,
yeah.
By the way, Tiffany,
don't be discouraged, people out there.
Thank you for always sharing both my and our videos. That's really I really do appreciate it. It's
we do, yes.
Yeah.
I love what you guys are doing. Like your whole community is just so beautiful. And even when I don't necessarily agree with what somebody's thinking, like I enjoy being able to hear their thoughts on the subject. So thank you guys for what you do. Seriously. Thank you so much.
No, thank you, Tiffany.
I love you.
I love you too.
Never mind. I was going to say something, but I'm not going to. Anyways, Tiffany, I'll just send you a message, Tiffany. Anyways, thank you for taking the time to call in. We only got about a minute and a half left, so we have to wrap up. But thank you so much for your support.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Message me. I want to chat. And real quick, on the whole, like Ethan says that he tries to message people back all the time, and I started out that way, and it got to where I have like 1,000 ongoing conversations between like 15 different, what is it? Like apps and sites and things. And so I try to respond to everyone. It just, if it takes a long time for me to respond, just message me again, because I probably just lost your message. So.
No, that's true. Jenna and I talk on a regular basis. I have her cell phone number and stuff, but even with that, sometimes she'll take like a day or two. She'll forget. She's telling you the truth, but don't be offended by it. I've forced myself to go into a habit where every night I'll go through all my messages to make sure I replied. It's sad. I don't think I should be doing that.
Well, I used to be the kind of person that always had my phone next to me, because I always wanted people to know that I was reliable. I was always there for them. They could always call me, and I would always answer. And then I realized after I started having enough people calling me that I was like, okay, I don't have the mental energy for this, because I'm a very one-on-one relationship kind of person, and I put a lot into each one-on-one relationship. But that means that I have a lot of conversations. So it's kind of tolling. But I'm sorry that we have to go. But
no, you're fine. Jenna, what do you got going on this week?
I'm coming back to doing my morning meditations at 10 a.m. Central for about 15 minutes. I can't on Wednesday because I have another doctor's appointment, but Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday this week. And then I have, on Wednesdays, I'm going to be premiering Atheistasis at 4 p.m. Central, where I will be present in the live chat with several people that you see here. And we'll go over to my Discord server after and continue the discussion, because I really like to continue learning, and I like to learn about what I'm learning from other people too. I also have Carrot Noises every Friday at 3:30 p.m. Central for 2 hours on Twitch. And that is where I basically paint and chat. And I'm getting some good feedback on that. So people seem to like it. And then obviously, Ethan and Jenna Show is very important every week.
Hell yeah. Mental health each and every week with a lot of the occasional squirrels and distractions right by. Thank you to our patrons, Kenneth, Leonard, Expresso Cat, and Doanya. If you like what you're doing, consider becoming a Patreon for as low as $1 a month. Link is in the description. Tonight at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time on my other channel, I will be hosting a debate on the topic, is Christianity logical, between atheist John Anthony and Christian precept Joel Sedekase from the Think Institute. Tuesday is my weekly call-in show where we tackle conspiracy theories, belief in aliens, and supernatural claims. Co-hosting that night will be Jenna Belk and Brainbug. You could not be more excited. And then every Thursday, if you're looking for a break from regular atheist content, join Hannah Vaughn and I at 9 p.m. as we talk about everything related to dating, relationships, sex. It's a live call-in show. You could reach out to us and tell us your favorite, worst, best dating story, anything. And we've had some good guests. We had a dating coach on before, Shannon Chow. We also had Dr. Daryl Ray on. But anyways, we have to get out of here. Like, subscribe, all the good stuff. And everyone have a safe and healthy week.
Bye. Thanks, y'all.